Shall I read?
Sure.
Okay. Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text 15. Karma brahmod bhavam vidhi brahmaksara samudbhavam tasmat sarva gatam brahma nityam yajne pratishtitam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So here in this chapter, Krishna is telling Arjuna all about karma, of how to act and about the Vedic sacrifices. Yagnartha karma, or the necessity of work for the satisfaction of Krishna only, is more expressly stated in this verse. If we have to work for the satisfaction of the Yagya Purush, Vishnu, then we must find out the direction of work in Brahman or the transcendental Vedas. Now we can see that we say work, oh, I don't want to do any work. But we can't not do anything. If we are constantly doing something or the other, if we are not physically working, we might just sit and speak. So we are constantly doing something or the other. The nature of the soul is to be active, to serve. And then all this activity, when we do this activity for our pleasure, what happens is then we have to take birth again to come and enjoy that pleasure. Some of the pleasure is immediate, like we are cooking food and we can eat it immediately. Yeah, but then some we have to take birth again to be able to come back and enjoy that, or to suffer the reaction of that. Now, Krishna does not want us to continuously stay in this material world because he knows that we suffer here. He knows that it's not a very pleasant place to stay in. Or maybe even if we are very happy here, we can't feel that bliss, the bliss that we are actually capable of feeling, because that bliss we can feel only when we are in the spiritual atmosphere. Right now, we are like the fish which has been taken out of water and put in the land. And so a fish can't stay there. Even though we put the fish in a 5-star hotel, 7-star hotel, give him the best massages and the best facials and the best buffet, the fish will say, let me go into the water. I can't be totally blissfully happy here. So similarly, we work here trying to think that it's going to make me happy. But Krishna is saying, you do your work, but do it for my satisfaction. And in that way, you will not have a reaction. You won't have a reaction. And then because you won't have a reaction, you don't need to come back here to the material world. You can come back to the spiritual world. The Vedas are therefore codes of working direction. Anything performed without the direction of the Vedas is called vikarma, or unauthorized or sinful work. So Vedas, they tell us that what work should we do and what work we should not do. So the work that we should not do, that is the sinful activities. Those are called vikarma. For if we indulge in those activities, what happens is we will get reactions of suffering. Because whenever we commit sinful activities, then we have to suffer for that sins. So all the illicit activities, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex, those are vikarma, sinful work. Therefore, one should always take direction from the Vedas to be saved from the reaction of work. As one has to work in ordinary life by the direction of the state, one similarly has to work under the direction of the supreme state of the Lord. Now, one may say, oh, this is such a tension, I don't want to do all this. I just want to do whatever I want to do. Why should I listen to the Vedas? What I have to look into, what is work, what is reaction, all these things. But then what happens is then we will be degraded to animal life. The animals, they don't need to follow the Vedas. They can act as, they can eat whenever they want, wherever they want, whatever they want. They can mate whenever, wherever, whatever. But because we have this human body, we have been given a higher responsibility. We have higher comforts also than animals. But with this human body comes a greater responsibility. We have been given the intelligence to understand, to inquire, why am I here? What am I doing? So in animal life, we do not have. And so we should make use of that intelligence and then try to find out, oh, really, there is something called sinful work. Let me try to understand what it is all about. Oh, there is something like a proper way of working. Let me try to understand what is that proper way of working. Such directions in the Vedas are directly manifested from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Vedas, they are not man-made. We, human beings, all living entities, we are not perfect. We are all imperfect. We commit mistakes. We are in illusion. We don't know what's the truth. We know the relative truth, but that our truth keeps changing. So it's just relative. It's not the supreme. Then we have, we make mistakes. We have imperfect senses, and we have a tendency to cheat. So if whatever we do, whatever we speak has these 4 defects. So if we need to have proper guidance, we need to have some knowledge which is above the 4 defects. And that is the knowledge of the Vedas. And that is given to us by the Supreme Lord because he does not have those 4 defects. He's perfect. So it is said, Asya Mahato Bhutasya Nishvasitam Etad Yad Rigvedo Yajurveda Samavedo Atharvan Girasaha. The 4 Vedas, namely the Rig Ved, Yajurved, Samved, and Atharva Ved, are all emanations from the breathing of the great personality of Godhead. Brihad Aranakya Upanishad 4.5.11. The Lord, being omnipotent, can speak by breathing air, for it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. The Lord has the omnipotence to perform through each of his senses the actions of all other senses. So we might say, oh, the Lord breathed and all the Vedas came out. How can it be? When I'm breathing, nothing's happening. Only the air is coming in and out, in and out. Because we always have a tendency that we equate God to us, we always think he's like him. We limit God to our experience. But God is omnipotent, he's unlimited. Brahmaji in his Brahma Samhita, he says that the Lord's, any of the senses can do the work of the other senses. For him, he can eat by just looking. We can't. If we just have to look at the food, our hunger won't be satisfied. We have to put the food in the mouth. And so because he is different than us, then we say, oh, I don't believe in God. How can he do such a thing? So we always want that God should fit to our description, our imagination. Many of us have that idea. Oh, God should be what I want him to be, not who he truly is. Like we want other living entities also. We don't like to accept others as they are. We say, you should be like what I want you to be. And that is where our great fault comes in. If we can just try to hear submissively that God is omnipotent. He is not limited. He's supremely independent. In other words, the Lord can speak through his breathing and he can impregnate by his eyes. Yeah, Mahavishnu, he lies down on the causal ocean and that's how he glances over this material Mahatattva, material energy, and he puts us living entities there. Now, we don't impregnate like that, we have a totally different system. But God can do that. And then we say, oh, because he is different than us, oh no, so he doesn't exist. He can't do all these things. Because we think we are greater than God, And that's what we have to give up. We just have to try to understand what is being said. So after creating or impregnating the conditioned souls into the womb of material nature, he gave his directions in the Vedic wisdom as to how such conditioned souls can return home back to Godhead. We should always remember that the conditioned souls in material nature are all eager for material enjoyment. So many people, most of us, we ask, oh, why there's so much suffering in this world? Why did God have to create this world, Why was he so bored that he made this world? No, he made this world because we have a desire to enjoy separate from him. And because we have this desire of enjoying separate from him, we can't be in the spiritual world, because over there, all the living entities want to enjoy together with Krishna, not in forgetfulness of him. So just to facilitate this desire, he creates this material world. And also to make us realize that, hey, you can't actually enjoy without me. That is what we have to learn over here, that we can't enjoy without Krishna. Our enjoyment is only when we are connected with him, because we are his parts and parcels. We are not separate from him. We are his. And so he creates the material world, and he gives us the Vedas of how we should live in this world and go back after leaving this body. But the Vedic directions are so made that one can satisfy one's perverted desires, then return to Godhead, having finished his so-called enjoyment. So because we have these material desires, then the Vedas give certain concessions. It gives concessions. Oh, this is how you can fulfill your material desire. This is how you do. Depends on what we are, mode of ignorance, passion, or goodness. Whatever modes we are in, we are given certain concessions. But what's the aim of the Vedas? Not that you just stay here trying to enjoy ourselves, but the aim of the Vedas is to inform us that this is not our permanent home and that we need to go back home, back to the spiritual world. It is a chance for the conditioned souls to attain liberation. Therefore, the conditioned souls must try to follow the process of yajna by becoming Krishna conscious. So now in this age of Kali, it is very difficult. We do not have the time or the energy to collect so many paraphernalia for yajnas, Yajna, it's a very costly affair. It needs a lot of ghee, gold, jewels, grains. Now we do the yajna as just as token. We offer those token things. But the true yajna for this age, as Lord Caitanya, who's Krishna himself, he came 500 years ago to teach us what is the yajna for this age of Kali. That is Sankirtan yajna, chanting the holy name of Krishna. And by doing that, by following that process, what will happen? We will become Krishna conscious. By sincerely chanting, following the process, we can go back home. Even those who have not followed the Vedic injunctions may adopt the principles of Krishna consciousness, and that will take the place of performance of Vedic yajnas or karmas. So we don't have to have any qualification to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, to read or hear from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. No, anywhere we are, whoever we are, whatever community, gender, country, place, anywhere we are, anyone can chant the holy name and connect ourselves to Krishna. There is no restriction as such. Any questions or comments? Yes, no? There's a question. Let me see. Oh, okay. So if no questions or comments, then we can go to the next verse. So the idea is that we should follow the process so that we can get out of here. And then Krishna is saying, what happens if we do not follow? Text 16. Would anybody like to read the text 16? Okay. No, then I can read. Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayatiha yaha aghayur indriya ramo mogam partha sajivati. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So in the earlier verse, Krishna tells Arjuna that follow the Vedic way of life, perform the sacrifice. And we heard what's the sacrifice for this age of Kali is the sacrifice of chanting the holy name. And then Krishna says, why we should sacrifice, why we should follow the life of the Vedic principles. Why? Because then otherwise we are living a life of sin. The Mammonist philosophy of work very hard and enjoy sense gratification is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, those who want to enjoy this material world, the above mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. So the modern civilization is teaching us how to go further and further away from God, how to go away further and further away from a Vedic way of life. The modern philosophy is that we should work very, very hard, and then whatever result we get, then we should enjoy our senses to the maximum degree. And so, because that we are more and more becoming like a godless civilization, that we are the one who's working hard, and so we will get the result by our own endeavor, and then we should enjoy that result. But Krishna is saying, if you really want to enjoy this world, then you follow a Vedic way of life, because in that way you can be peaceful. So we can see by following this work hard and enjoy sense gratification, we can see, are people actually becoming more happy? Are people actually more peaceful? Or is it creating more frustration, more anxiety, more depression in people? Study shows that in fact it's creating more anxiety. There are more and more people who are taking antidepressants because of the nature of the world. The stress is so much that we are not used to, we are not designed to take so much stress. But the way the whole atmosphere has become, we are pushed into that direction. And so there is no peace. And then if there's no peace, how can we be happy? So one who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is especially meant for self-realization in either of the three ways, namely karma yoga, jnana yoga, or bhakti yoga. There is no necessity of rigidly following the performances of the prescribed yajnas for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue. But those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by the above mentioned cycle of yajna performances. Now, if somebody is on the transcendental platform, of course, then they are not engaged in karma, jnana, or bhakti. They are transcendental. But a true pure devotee, he continues his acts of bhakti. A pure devotee, he does not say, oh, now I've become a pure devotee, so I will stop to hear and chant. No, he continues. He continues. And so at our level, we are encouraged to hear and chant in this age of Kali, so that we can have some sort of peace and happiness. There are different kinds of activities. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness. Therefore, they need to execute pious work. Now, the difference, there's Krishna conscious and sensory conscious. Well, what is sensory conscious? That I will eat this, I will be happy. I will hear this, I will be happy. I will see this, I will be happy. And Krishna conscious is, let me follow these rules and regulations. This is the prescribed process. This is the way to please Krishna. This is the way to please the spiritual master. So let me follow it, whether I like it or not. The yajna system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without being entangled in the reaction of sense gratificatory work. So the the Vedas, they prescribe certain yagyas because Krishna knows that we have so many material desires and we want to fulfill the material desires. But then when we are fulfilling this material desires, then we get caught up in the action and reaction. We get the karmic reaction. So there are certain yagyas prescribed so that we do not get entangled in this. And then again, we come to the point that the yagya prescribed for the Kali Yuga is the Sankirtan yagya, the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. The prosperity of the world depends not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by the demigods. Therefore, the yagyas are directly aimed at the particular demigods mentioned in the Vedas. So traditionally in the earlier ages, what was there? That the yagya is performed, for example, there'll be a yagya performed to please Lord Indra so that he can give enough rain, or there'll be a yagya performed to please the sun god, so there's proper regulated sunshine everywhere. But everybody knew, the person who's performing the yagya, he knows that the primary person who has to be satisfied by this yagya is Lord Vishnu. The fire that is lit, that is Lord Vishnu. And so that was the understanding. And then by doing such yagyas, by getting that would give a little bit of detachment from just keeping things for yourself. So in earlier ages that was prescribed. And then also what would happen is in between the yagya, when there was be a breaks, then these sages who were performing the yagya, they would narrate the pastimes of the Lord from Narayana, from the Ramayana, or from the different itihasas, the Puranas, to try to tell the people that, okay, you're doing this yagya, very nice, but the whole aim is to get out of this material world. And so by associating with these saintly people, then the person who would do the yagya would also slowly get that detachment and get attachment towards Krishna. So that's how the whole system was made. So therefore, indirectly, it is a practice of Krishna consciousness, because when one masters the performance of yagyas, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But if by performing yagyas, one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as only moral codes. One should not, therefore, limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. So it's not just enough to perform yagyas just for material enjoyment, for following what is to be done, what is not to be done. But the idea is to become Krishna conscious. It's only when we connect ourselves to Krishna, then we are situated in our true or original identity. And that is what will give us the peace and the happiness that we are looking for. We are all hankering. We are all hankering for Krishna. We don't know it. And that's the reason we're always looking, feeling that no matter how happy we are, no matter how much we are enjoying, still there's something missing. And that missing is that we are missing Krishna. And that, so that's why we are recommended to hear and chant the holy name, so that we can reconnect ourselves to Krishna. Is that okay? Any questions, comments, anything to add? Any corrections? No? Okay. So then reading on, text 17. Would anybody like to read it? Okay.
Yasva atmaratireva syad atmatruptasya manavah atmanyeva ja santushtastasya karyam na vidyate.
But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, For him, there is no duty. A person who is fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effect of many, many thousands of yajna performances. By such clearing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to the Vedic injunctions. Such a Krishna conscious person is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and similar infatuations. So the more we engage in the Sankirtan Yajna, hearing and chanting about Krishna, the more we get purified. And then a person who's fully purified means he has no more material desire. His desire is only to please Krishna. He's understood that he is not the body, he's the soul. He's a part and parcel of Krishna. And he has an eternal loving relationship with Krishna. Then he does not want any material desire. He doesn't have any material desire. So for him, he doesn't need to follow any of these Vedic yagyas or tantras or pujas. He's just happy being Krishna conscious. He does not stop hearing and chanting about Krishna. He does not stop hearing from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or associate with devotees. No, he finds greater pleasure in doing those things. He continues doing those things. But he's no longer interested in anything material for his own pleasure. Because he knows he's not the body. So he does not want to make this body any more comfortable. What he wants to do is he's situated in his relationship with Krishna, and he's finding that he's experiencing the bliss in that relationship. And so he engages more and more in hearing and chanting and sharing this bliss with others. By such clearing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. So the more our consciousness is cleared, how can we clear our consciousness? Cheto darpana marjanam, by chanting the holy name. The more we chant the holy name, the more our consciousness is clear. And what do we mean consciousness is clear? That it means that we can see ourselves, that we are the eternal, we have an eternal relationship with Krishna, that we are not this body. Is that okay? Any questions or comments or any? No? So, okay. So then why was all the Vedas made? Why was all this Vedic yajnas made? Vedic sacrifices? Would anybody like to try to answer? Why was all this Veda? Why did Vyasadeva compile all the Vedas? If the only thing we have to become is only Krishna conscious, then we eventually have to rise above performing these yajnas. If the only thing we have to do is hear and chant Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and chant the holy name, then why is so much prescription, do this yajna, do this puja? Why is all this written in the Vedas? The reason is because not everyone is ready to take up Krishna consciousness. Each living entity is at their own level of consciousness. So for the persons who still want to enjoy this material world, in the sense they want to go to higher heavenly planets, enjoy with the planets, in the planets of the demigods, for them this Vedas are there. Or people who are in the mode of ignorance, how they can slowly give up the sinful activities and gradually rise above them. For them, the Vedas are there so that we can slowly give up our sinful activities, our sinful desires, and gradually get elevated to Krishna consciousness by associating with the sages who are helping us do the yajna. That was the aim. The aim was not that, oh, perform yajna and be happy here in the material world. The aim was do yajna, be detached from the results of the activities, associate with the saintly persons, get knowledge of Krishna consciousness, and then go back home. So if there are no further questions, we'll read one more verse there. Text 18. Neva tasya kritenartho na kashchana. Yeah, please read.
Naiva tasya krutenartho na kruteneha kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschidartha vipashriyah.
A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. So this is the position of a pure devotee. A self-realized man is no longer obliged to perform any prescribed duty save and except activities in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either, as will be explained in the following verses. A Krishna conscious man does not take shelter of any person, man, or demigod. Whatever he does in Krishna consciousness is sufficient in the discharge of his obligation. So it doesn't mean that if a person has become Krishna conscious, many people think, oh, you become a devotee means you become useless. You become a burden to society, you're not working anymore. But the devotees, they work very, very hard. And who are they working for? For the welfare of the others. They want others also to take advantage of this chanting of the holy name. They want everyone to be connected to Krishna. They want everyone to realize, hey, you're not the body, you're the soul. So they work very, very hard for that, you know. And so what does it mean that he has no prescribed duty? Well, a pure devotee, he continues hearing and chanting and giving Krishna to others. He does not work for the satisfaction of his material desire. He has no material desire. His only desire is to be engaged in bhakti, to engage in devotional service and to give others, connect others to Krishna. So let's stop here for today and then we can chant one round. Are there any questions or comments or anything today? No? No, then we can stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining in.